So do you sometimes look in the mirror and you don't really recognize who you're looking at? Or maybe you look at photos and you're not happy with the way you look or the way you come across. Maybe you have a bit of a distorted self-image issue. And if you can resonate with this, keep watching, because I'm going to talk about some of the challenges that we have, but also offering a few solutions as well. Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Yatin Mistry, and I'm a queer LGBT Desi coach. I love helping inspiring people to live their best lives. So a common problem faced by a lot of our community, the queer and the LGBTQI+ community, is that we have a bit of a negative self-image about ourselves. You think about it, from a young age, we've had to live up to other people's expectations. We've had to hide who we are, and we can't portray our true authentic selves because of the shame of maybe being outed or being rejected. And therefore we end up having this fog of facades that we create around us to try and live up to other people's expectations, never truly being who we are. And so when we look at ourselves, we're quite hard on ourselves and quite harsh on ourselves. And it can be quite difficult to fix this, and it can lead to quite negative, doubtful, anxiety-inducing thoughts within our heads. So distorted self-image is when you see yourself in a non-accurate way. It's not actually how you're arriving. You might have some sort of body dysmorphia. You might not like the way you look, the way you dressed, even though you look fine. Maybe your lips are too big, too small. There'll be aspects of yourself that you're just not happy with. And that can end up causing a lot of problems, a lot of anxiety-inducing problems. Now, everyone has elements of body dysmorphia or, doubting their self-image from time to time. But I'm going to go through some of the signs that can be quite big to help you recognize that you might be going through this. One of the ways you might know you have distorted self-image is having constant low self-esteem. Because we've always had to live up to other people's expectations or try to be a version of ourselves that we're not. We've grown up because our parents wanted to marry a girl or marry a guy, so we had to live that life as if we like girls and like guys. That ends up creating a disparity in who we are and who we really want to be, that authenticity. And it ends up creating this sense of low self-esteem, and the way we see ourselves, we're not happy with, we're never happy with, because we're never living up to other people's expectations, nor can we live up to our own internal expectations, and it's this unhappy medium. So another way that we might know that we have this, distorted image of ourselves is when we seek validation externally. We want validation from our friends or from our families, or from our community, etc., rather than seeking self-validation. So being content from within ourselves. We always want that comment, oh, doesn't he look good? Doesn't she look great? Oh, that's amazing that they've done that. We want words like that, and we're always seeking that. However, the problem with that is you're never always going to be able to validate everyone, or you're never always going to be able to have positive views from everyone. You're always gonna, there's always going to be someone that doesn't necessarily like what you're wearing or doesn't really like how you're turning up. But the best way around this is actually to find it within yourself, and we'll talk about that in a bit. Another sign might end up being self-harming. And unfortunately, a lot of youth, LGBT queer youth especially, end up self-harming, and that might be another sign that maybe you're actually, you've got a slightly distorted self-image. So another thing that might also end up being a sign of body, not liking who you are, is this idea of eating disorders. You may end up eating too much, having a chocolate addiction or a sugar addiction, or maybe not eating enough, or maybe things like bulimia, because you want to be a particular body shape or body weight, because these again have been things that have been instilled into you, that to be beautiful or to be handsome, you need to be this weight or have this size 0 waist, or look a particular way, be really ripped, etc. So how do we fix some of this? How do we overcome some of these challenges that we go through? These challenging thoughts that hit us all the time. So the first thing is, your identity is valid. You are perfect. You are amazing the way you are. Sometimes what happens is, in our minds, we are telling ourselves, I'm not good enough. this isn't good enough, I'm not worthy. And what we need to do is change the way we speak to ourselves. If you think about it, we speak to ourselves sometimes worse than we speak to our worst enemy. And just inside of our heads, the voices that we use and the way we kind of communicate to ourselves, if we change that, imagine if it was your best friend, what would be the advice you were giving your best friend? Could you give yourself that same type of advice instead, inside of your mind? If we start changing the language that we use, our ability to self-accept changes, and we will end up loving ourselves a lot more. And loving ourselves is one of the first steps to fixing some of these things, because low self-esteem and body eating issues, etc., we do a lot of these things because there is no love towards oneself. And that's what we're changing. We're starting to change the way we start loving ourselves and approaching the language that we use towards ourselves. You know, there's an expression that you are the sum of the 5 people you hang around with the most. And it's important to make sure you surround yourself with good people, wholesome people. I know it can take time, but you want to remove out toxic company. Imagine you're a sports person. Imagine you play badminton, for example, and you play badminton always with people who don't play at the same level as you. They play a few levels below you. Eventually what's going to happen is your game is going to drop to their level. You're not going to play as well as you did. You're going to play as well as the people that were below you. That's like hanging around with people who are toxic. Instead, if you hang around with people that are slightly better than you, they might challenge you, they might push you, but what's going to happen? Your game is going to rise as well. You're going to end up being a little bit more, you're going to end up playing a better version of your game, and in the process, actually becoming a better version of yourself. So make sure you try and hang around with people who are upbeat, positive, optimistic, and see you for who you are in terms of your good qualities, not just end up being toxic. Remember, it's also important that you are who you are. Being gay, being camp, being flamboyant, being butch, it makes no difference. That's who you are. And you expressing that is fine. If someone has an issue with that, that's their issue, not your issue. So don't be afraid to express who you are. Obviously, make sure you're in a safe space, make sure you're in a safe environment, but don't stop being who you are. The happiest people in life are those that live authentically, right? Where who they see themselves as, it comes out in how they behave as well. And so, your thoughts, your words and your deeds, what you're doing are all aligned. That's where authenticity comes from. And when you're acting in an authentic way, you're your most happiest, you're your most aligned. One of the things is social media is so addictive and it can really suck you right in. But the problem with social media is it can end up portraying a facade of someone's life. And if we're always comparing our lives to that person's life, it's never a healthy or a good thing, because they may only be putting on a facade of their life, a particular glimpse of their life. A lot of people smile for the picture, and then once the picture's been taken, they go back to their miserable selves. But all we see is that smiley image. So limit the amount of time maybe we spend on social media, or getting engrossed in that social media lifestyle. Because at the end of the day, that person's image, that person's feed is only a facade of their lives. And if we start feeling that, oh, my life isn't as good as theirs, or I'm not worthy, or I'm not good enough, these things only make us feel down and make us feel depressed, or we end up having that distorted body image of ourselves because we see all that glamour. So maybe reduce down the amount of time that we spend on social media. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. There are, one of the most important things that is important with self-image or negative self-image is changing the way you speak to yourself. You've got to start to speak to yourself in a more loving way, and then make sure you surround yourself with those positive, reaffirming type of people. And that can take time. That doesn't happen overnight. You can't just go and seek that kind of personality. But over time, if you can find people like that, embrace them and bring them into your circle, your inner circle, they'll also help prop you up. I hope you found this video useful, and I hope some of the tips resonated with you, some little changes that you could make in your life. If you did enjoy this video, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up. I'd appreciate if you could subscribe to this channel and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you.